Hi, guys. It's Robbie Raw here with the Raw Truth series on cancer and prevention. And I'm so excited about today's guest. This was such a divine intervention for me to meet Jenn and for her to find my book at the library and for us to connect because both of us over the last many years, for me, it's been, decades, have been on this track to get to the root cause of disease, even with cancer, of course, which is a dis-ease. And so, over the years, I have interviewed Ty Bollinger, The Truth About Cancer. I've interviewed, of course, Chris Wark from Chris Beat Cancer. I've interviewed many, many, many different doctors and health professionals and cancer thrivers. I've also interviewed the author of Radical Remission. And so I have been on this journey with you. And it started for me when, of course, I lost my sister, or my sister was actually diagnosed with cancer. My sister Arlene had been diagnosed with stage 4 metastatic breast cancer after being misdiagnosed for 2 years. And so during that time, I wanted to learn everything I could possibly learn. And so that kind of is why I did all the research that I did. And one of my passions is helping people with disease to not only prevent disease, but to reverse disease. And when I met Jenn, it was just such a beautiful, she's such a beautiful person. And her journey just inspired me that I interviewed her on the air and on her podcast. And I asked her to do this seminar in this interview today because I know that she can help you. Jenn is actually Chef Jenn, Chef Jenn Mozg, and she actually goes to people's houses and cooks for them, or she'll make meals at her house and bring them to other people's house. She's brought me meals before. She'll do cooking classes for you or learning how to use your Vitamix or whatever. She is a culinary chef who went to school for this. This is what she's been studying in nutrition. And when she tells her story, you'll understand why she is so passionate. So before we get started, I just want to pray right now. Heavenly Father, I just thank you. Thank you for Jenn. Thank you for giving Jenn and I and Anne-Marie the wisdom that we need to help people take care of this temporary earth suit, this temporary mobile home that you've given us, Lord. And I just ask that you give Jenn the words that she needs today. And I ask that whoever needs to hear this message that she has, that you bring them to this message here today, Lord. And Lord, we are so grateful to know you and let you be known. So Lord, I just ask you to take over this conversation today. And I just thank Jenn and Lord that you've given her that spirit to help other people, Lord. Lord, we love you, we worship you, we praise you, we thank you, and I ask you to give peace that surpasses all understanding to everyone that's in the sound of our voice, that they know that no matter what their diagnosis is or isn't, Lord, that ultimately you have the master plan, that you are sovereign God and nothing happens by accident. We love you, we worship you, we praise you, and we thank you in Jesus' holy, holy name. Amen. All right, I'm going to turn it over to Jenn now. I know you're going to be blessed. And guys, I want to say one more thing. No matter what your journey is, in this disease process, and we all get disease at one time or another, generally, even if it's, I don't know, a cold, that's still dis-ease, right? You need to pray about it and you need to decide what treatment is good for you, what treatments, I should say. And all Jenn and I want to do is to make sure that you know there are options out there. And I've told you all this and it's in my book over the years, but I want you to hear from Jenn because she's actually living it. She has been a cancer thriver and survivor, and she beat it against all odds. We love you guys. All right, here's Jenn.
All right. So thank you all for coming. I think that no matter what your health situation is, today you will learn something valuable that you will take with you to improve your health and your journey to wellness. And my story started in March of 2020 when COVID was just starting to hit the USA. I was in the hospital with a grapefruit-sized tumor in my small intestine, and luckily I was able to have that surgically removed. And what followed was very important in my life because um, the events that happened changed who I am, and it changed my knowledge of everything in terms of disease in the body. So I'm here today to share with you what I've learned. And so what happened was I had my cancer surgically removed, but it was already stage 4, meaning it already deposited throughout my abdomen. And the surgeon took out as much as he could find. He closed me up and he said, okay, you need to go on to chemotherapy, because it's not a matter of if your cancer is going to return, it's a matter of when, and the chemo will slow it down. But I could tell there was something else to the story just because I could see tears in all of my doctors' eyes every time they came into the room to look at me. I realized there was no cure. And unfortunately, there also was no type of chemotherapy or anything that was going to keep my cancer at bay. And I knew I needed to find something else. I didn't know what else was out there, but I knew I was about to embark on a journey, let's say, save my butt university. That's what I enrolled into, to get to the bottom of my health. What happened? What went wrong? How can I survive? Are there any other options? As a matter of fact, there was. And I'm here to share all of that with you today. So I also want to mention how I met Robbie, because she's the reason I get to share my story on her platform with all of you today. So about 2 years into my cancer healing journey, I was feeling a little down, a little lonely. I was at the library looking at all of the health books, and Robbie's book was on the top shelf, just kind of like sticking out another inch or two from all the other books. And I grabbed it and I said, oh, you know what? That's cool. She's a local woman. I'm going to read her book. And I did. And I loved what she had to say. I gave her a call, and she has been my health coach ever since. And she loved my story that I shared with her so much. She wants me to share it with all of you. So now I want to talk about cancer causes. So we all play a role in our health, and we can understand the causes of cancer and try to maneuver our life around those causes so that we have a better outcome, or we don't have to worry so much about when are we going to get diagnosed with cancer. We have a lot of control over it. So the truth is 70 to 95% of all cancers are caused by environmental factors, diet, and lifestyle. So I'm going to go over those with you. And if you want to grab a pen and paper, jot it down. This is being recorded. You can always go back and listen again. Some of the top cancer-causing environmental factors are food. And I have a list of foods that you probably should start avoiding, which are GMOs, microwave popcorn, BPA, canned goods, grilled red meat, high fructose corn syrup and other refined sugars, salted, pickled, smoked foods, soda, white flour, and hydrogenated oils. These are all things that are not meant to go in our body. Our body does not recognize them, and sometimes it can wreak havoc in our body and into our genes, into our cells. Another thing is radiation. I know we've all heard that word a lot lately, especially with 5G coming out, but it's best to try to limit that. That's CT scans, x-rays, cell phones. Those things can cause our cells to mutate. So it's best if you can find ways possibly around that. We all can't avoid our cell phones, but maybe there's a cell phone cover or something like that that you can explore. Household products. So I'm talking about Windex, Febreze, air freshener, Pine Sol, things like that. we really shouldn't be using. And there are alternatives. In a quick Google search saying like DIY house cleaning or essential oils for scent in the air, those certain things are better alternatives for us moving on into the future here. Um, Another thing not many people know about are mercury fillings in your teeth. So they actually release mercury vapor into your body all day long. Studies have showed that. So it's best if you can find a holistic dentist to remove that and replace it. And another thing is a lot of cancer patients get diagnosed with cancer around a few years after the time they had a root canal, because what happens is there is bacteria that can build up in that cavity of your root canal, and then it could just kind of leach into your body. So those are things you might want to explore if that's something that might stand out to you. Stress. Stress is a big one. It suppresses the immune system. We all should not live chronically stressed day to day. So we all know what's stressing us. We just have to figure out how to remove that stress. There is a way. Sometimes we're too stubborn to be open to it, but we can all acknowledge it and try to find a way to remove that from our life. Exercise. Uh, Exercise gets your blood flowing, gets oxygen into your lungs. Cancer doesn't do as well in an oxygenated environment. So that is also deep breathing. We should be breathing through our belly and deep breaths, and not so much up here when we're stressed, breathing through our more of our top area here. Now there's two things I want to talk about that really stood out to me in terms of understanding the causes of cancer. So there is a social readjustment rating scale, and you can Google that, social readjustment rating scale. And what comes up is this scale of all of these life events and a number next to them. And you can go on and you can say, okay, I've had these life events, divorce, new job, I just lost a spouse, and all of these life events have a number next to them. And you add up your tally and you see your score of stress in your life. And if your score is high, and it will tell you how high is bad, if it's high, that means that you're very stressed and you're very susceptible to chronic disease or cancer. So you want to take notice that, and find ways in your life to maybe cope with that stress, because we all have those stresses, but we do need to cope with them, and we can't just stuff them down in our body and hold them there. And the last thing about cancer causes that just absolutely blew my mind is there's a study on schizophrenics all living at the same clinic, all eating the same diet in the same environment. But the one group of schizophrenics was anxious all the time and paranoid. They had very high rates of cancer. The other group of schizophrenics was shutting out the world, just didn't care, didn't want anybody to bother them. They had very low rates of cancer. So what that study says to me is how important mental health and our stress are in the way that we're susceptible to chronic disease. They all had the same diet. I used to think diet was absolutely the only thing to heal from chronic disease, but it turns out it's not. It's your whole body. You have to take a holistic approach to it. So those are my topics on cancer causes. And now I want to dive into cancer prevention, what we can do to take control. So here's a quote I want to start out with is the easiest way to beat cancer is to not get cancer in the first place. That is the absolute truth. You do not want to be in my position or the position of others where you get the diagnosis, and then you look into, well, what can I do? What did I do wrong? Let's just figure it out now before that even happens. So cancer prevention, try to eat organic, local, in-season produce. Try to eat it raw or the freshest as possible. Frozen is a great option. If you could fill half of your plate with non-starchy vegetables just at dinner time or lunch, that would be amazing. Um, if you could lower back the amount of animal products and tweak it to higher quality animal products, I'm talking grass-fed, pasture-raised type animal products. And if you could lower your grains and sugars if you can, just because that makes more room for those fruits and vegetables in your diet, the good stuff. The fruits and vegetables are what have the phytochemicals that in many ways will be anti-cancer or anti-inflammatory, anti-disease. So we want to make sure we're getting in those fruits and vegetables every day. The next prevention-wise is to minimize your toxins. So that's what I was saying about the mercury fillings and the household cleaning products, beauty products. What we put on our skin is absorbed into our body. So it'd be best if you could find something that you like that is of higher quality with very low toxins in it. And we have to get the right nutrients in our body. And eating healthy now is much cheaper than getting sick. I spent way too much money on trying to recoup my health. And then I kicked myself in the butt saying, gosh, I could have just maybe spread out that money on a weekly basis, maintaining my health in the first place. It's a lot easier that way. And so take my word for it. And I have some tips on animal products from a book I really like from a man who healed cancer with his diet and a lot of things that I'm going to talk about today. So I'm just going to point out a few tips about animal products. One is the cleanest form of meat that you can eat are whole cuts of organic, pasture-raised, grass-fed kosher meat, ideally from someone you know who either raised it or killed it in the wild. Now, I know that sometimes that's not possible, but we do our best, and we don't necessarily need to eat meat with every meal to cut down our budget and our expenses on groceries. Another one that people don't really know is ground meat. It can be a bacterial bomb for your system, and you should avoid it. So there's studies saying how ground turkey or ground meats in the factory get a lot of bacteria ground in with them. Another is marinating or boiling your meat in stews are two of the safest ways to cook meat because these methods kill bacteria and they do not create cancer-causing compounds. Grilling at a high heat can often produce cancer-causing compounds. And the more meat you eat, the higher your risk for disease. Meat can be a cancer promoter. If you have cancer, stop eating animal products. And what he's saying is stop eating them for now until you're in the clear. And if you want to prevent cancer, eat less meat. A few times per week or less is a good rule of thumb to follow. So those are my tips on prevention. It's your diet, it's minimizing your toxins. There's more too, but now I'm going to get into my story of how I healed, and I will fully get into every detail of that because you can take those tools into your prevention toolbox. Everything I'm about to talk about that I did, it doesn't matter if you're healthy, if you're sick, if you have cancer, what type of treatment you're doing, conventional, alternative, both. All of these things are for you. You can use them just check with your doctor just to be safe. But I'm fairly confident that anything I say on this list is something that you can take and learn about, read about, and take with you into your healing path. So, the first thing that happened to me when I was diagnosed is I was sitting in the hospital and I was absolutely terrified. But then I realized that being diagnosed with this terminal illness was a reason for me to completely change who I am. All of a sudden, I had this power. I could tell someone no. Um, I just like found this inner power that I could change who I am. I don't have to be that old person anymore. And I gained a new perspective on all of my life problems. Like, oh, geez, those dishes in the sink that I stress about every day, they're actually not a big deal at all. It something about getting a diagnosis of a very serious disease will make you realize what's important in life and make you kind of less anxious about all of those things that used to bother you. And by me saying that, I'm giving you permission today. You do not need a disease to let yourself change who you are, say no to people, maybe gain a new passion in life. Totally just, start switching it up and stop worrying about the small things. They actually really do not matter at all. Um, so there was like this mental shift that happened to me when I got diagnosed. The next thing that happened was I got an oncologist. I was told, okay, 6 to 8 months of chemotherapy. And I kind of started to black out a little. Everything was going so fast. I knew I needed to jump on this and I needed to handle it right away. But I also knew that I needed to step back. So I said, wait. I told my doctors, wait, give me 2 weeks. I just need to go home, do some research, figure this all out before I commit to a process. So that's what I did. And the first thing that came to me, a friend brought me a documentary series. There's also a book and a website, and it's very important that you know about this. It's called The Truth About Cancer by Ty Bollinger. And if you've followed Robbie in the past, she has taught a Truth About Cancer class, and she's interviewed Ty Bollinger, the creator of the book and the movie. And in that series, I watched 9 DVDs, about an hour long each, all talking about different alternative therapies to potentially healing from cancer. Therapies all around the world that other people are using that aren't an option really for us here in the US. A lot of them are kind of shunned because there's no studies on these people healing, because people who heal in an alternative way, they tend to do all sorts of things and they can't really be studied. So it's a little taboo, these therapies, but why not watch the documentary or go on the website and just learn about them a little bit to give yourself an idea of maybe there's more out there, especially if maybe you have cancer and the therapies that you're on aren't working. Just know that maybe there's something you can add from this Truth About Cancer documentary and website that you don't know about yet. The next thing I did was I started kind of branching out. I had my oncologist, I had a naturopath doctor, a functional medicine doctor, and I just kept asking them different things. And I had like this binder and I would just write things down. So I was asking them all of their opinions on what I could do to heal. And a lot of them all said the same things, but some had little tidbits that I took and I compiled them. The first thing my naturopath told me was mental health is really important. And I did not want to hear that. I wanted her to tell me what herb, what supplement, tell me what to take. But she was like, no, you need a strong reason to live, and you need to calm yourself and center yourself and get into deep breathing. And I didn't think she understood how serious my condition was. And I didn't have a lot of time. The typical stage 4 small intestine cancer that I had, the typical patient only lives for 20 months. So I did not have a lot of time. So I was a little upset at the time hearing her tell me to breathe and to read these books on mental health. But now I understand why it was crucial. Another thing was go on a whole food plant-based diet. And I read multiple books and I had multiple doctors tell me to do that. So I understood it. That's what I did. That's what I dived into. And another thing was mushrooms. Mushrooms, if I had to say there was one thing I really stuck with the entire time, it was a variety of mushrooms in a variety of different ways. I'm talking medicinal mushrooms, cordyceps, lion's mane, chaga, turkey tail, things like that. And they come in powders, they come in tinctures, and they come, sometimes you can get them in your backyard. I don't advise that unless you're going with someone who's a professional mushroom guy, but they're there for us. They're there, and they're easily accessible, and they're not that expensive. I was put on different supplements. And then the last thing that I did that I was told to do through the very beginning of my healing and finding these doctors was fasting and detoxing. So that meant possibly going 24 hours or longer without food, just water, going in a sauna, exercising, things like that to detox your body. Let's get the junk out of you so that you can heal. The next thing I found, which was such a blessing, was called Radical Remission. And that's a book. And I believe there's also like a DVD coming out about it very soon. And there's a woman who went around the world and she asked a lot of people who just radically healed from cancer. So I'm talking they had cancer one day, the next day it was gone and nobody knows why. She wanted to know why. So she asked all of these people and she compiled the 9 factors that almost every one of these cancer patients did. So I'm going to tell you what they are. Everybody changed their diet radically. They took control of their health, followed their intuition, took herbs and supplements, released suppressed emotions, increased positive emotions, embraced social support, deepened their spiritual connection, and had strong reasons for living. So you do not need to be diagnosed with a terminal disease or cancer to do all 9 of those things. Those are things we should all kind of be doing anyways. The next thing that I did was I sought out a mental health therapist. I knew that I had some medical trauma that was kind of stuck in me. I was terrified to go into a hospital, go to the doctor's office, things like that. I had a lot of PTSD over it. I needed to talk through that with somebody that wasn't my husband or my mother-in-law. I needed someone to just listen, possibly a professional who understands it a little bit more, and to walk me through it. And with that, I also talked about the fear of death, kind of got that off my plate because there was that possibility for a long time. And from there, we started to talk about childhood trauma that I had built up, and I realized I suppressed it and I kept it all in my abdomen where the cancer grew. And there's links between suppressing your emotions in an area and possibly disease appearing later in life. And the last thing I learned with my mental health therapist was you can't change people. So I'll tell you today, there's somebody in your life that you so badly want to change, they won't. And you have to just somehow let that wash over you and you have to move on and you have to accept them and you have to decide, do you want them in your life? Do you not? Things like that. These are things that truly contribute to disease and to cancer. And it's mind boggling that it does. And I don't fully understand it. But the more that I tell people this, maybe you can start to say, oh, maybe I should look into that. The next thing I did was I found an exercise coach and combined breathing coach. So I had a lot of surgeries. I needed to learn to restore my abdominal muscles. What I didn't realize was that involved a lot of deep breathing, and that involved in calming my nervous system, which is essential for healing disease. So deep breathing, light exercise, those things are so important whether you are with disease or without disease. Try to find a way to carve that into your life. And the other thing I needed to do was I needed to identify in my life where I was struggling and what gave me stress. And at least for the time being, while I was healing from cancer, I needed to find a solution. So I had a housekeeper, a dog walker, a babysitter, and I relied on social support more. I let friends do things for me, go to the grocery store, pick up a prescription. I would pawn my son off on my in-laws all the time. That's something I used to have guilt about, but I don't anymore because I realized it was critical in my healing journey. So if there's things in your life that are stressing you, it's time to find out, is there a way to maybe delegate that task to someone else for a little while so that you can kind of jumpstart your healing. The next things I learned are from books I read, YouTube videos, DVDs, podcasts, you name it. I was always in just like this cancer healing crunch mode. And I was just a sponge. I was sucking up all this information. And I only saved the most important for you guys today. So I learned you can actually starve cancer with supplements, herbs, and food. So I chose the food route. And what I didn't know was that cancer can feed off of glucose, glutamine, fat, can feed off other things too, but those are the three big ones. And if you take one away, let's say you take glucose away, all of a sudden now that cancer can switch and feed off of fat and glutamine. You have to dive deep into finding out your specific cancer. What does it need for fuel? And can you shut it down? So that's something I did. And it's absolutely possible to do with the help of a doctor, and you can do it at home. You can learn how to do it. At first it seems hard and overwhelming, but it's completely possible. And I know a lot of people who have done it, and they've been in remission from cancer. The next thing I learned was balancing my omegas. I did not realize that omega-6s could promote inflammation if they're high. Omega-3s, you want them high because they reduce your inflammation. Well, at the time I was eating a lot of omega-6s. When I was diagnosed with cancer, I was eating like oils and processed foods that aren't good for me, peanut butter, things like that. But I was not taking fish oil or eating fish or seaweed, things that have omega-3. And that whole environment can promote cancer growth. So I was kind of coached by a nurse to look at my omega panel and tweak it so that I could get a higher omega-3 and lower my omega-6, all through diet. The next thing was vitamin D. You want yours at a certain level. And vitamin D can turn cancer genes on and off. So it's important, especially from a Western New York standpoint, to keep monitoring your vitamin D level and supplement or find some way you can take. What I did was I took like vitamin D injections. There's ways to increase your vitamin D. The next thing I found, this was about maybe 2 years into my cancer healing journey. I found a man named Chris Wark, and Robbie has interviewed this man. He had stage 3 colon cancer. He had it surgically removed like I did. Then he was told to go to chemotherapy to prevent it from reoccurring. And he decided not to. He decided to take a chance and do his own research. And he used a lot of different modalities, but diet was a really big one. So I'm going to talk a bit about the modalities he used, and we're going to dive into diet even further. So diet, exercise, detox, stress, mental health, exercise, filtering your water, fasting. He even talked about lymphatic drainage, jumping up and down on a trampoline. So I even bought a little trampoline on Amazon Marketplace for like $10, and I started jumping in my living room every day. These little things, they add up to your healing. So the first one that Chris Wark really tried to drive home was you need to eliminate cancer promoting foods. So that was animal products was a big one. And the reason is it's because animal products, they can have like liquid fuel for a tumor in the forms of IGF-1, glutamine, methionine, and heme iron. Those things could potentially fuel cancer. So to take them away, now you have more room to overdose on nutrient-dense foods like fruits and vegetables and seeds and nuts and oats, things like that. But also you're taking away a big part of possibly what a tumor needs to grow by eliminating those animal products. And I'm going to talk about phytochemicals. Phytochemicals are in every fruit and vegetable, and every single one can be anti-cancer in some way or form. So carrots was a huge one. They have a phytochemical called falcarinol, and it turns out it's antibacterial, antifungal, anti-inflammatory. It boosts your immune system, and it has anti-cancer properties. So what Chris Wark did, he juiced carrots every day. So of course I juiced carrots every day. Celery. He added celery into his juice. Why? Because it has a phytochemical called apigenin, and it blocks angiogenesis, which is when a tumor wants to form blood vessels to gain nutrients. That's called angiogenesis. So if you could block off that tumor's blood supply, you could potentially kill it. So celery can do that. And it turns out celery can also help chemotherapy kill more cells. So these things are not just for people who want an alternative cancer treatment program. It's if you're doing conventional too. You can tie all of this in, ask your doctor first, but these things will probably only help you. And that's what we need right now. We just need more help to fight that cancer. So ginger and turmeric, anti-cancer, studies show it can shrink tumors. Cruciferous vegetables have a phytochemical called sulforaphane, which is a liver detoxifier. And oftentimes when we have cancer or a disease, we need to detoxify our liver. It might be a little gunked up. So that's where that comes in. Cruciferous vegetables, broccoli, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts. And it turns out if you really want to add a big bang for your buck, Brussels sprouts have 25 times the amount of sulforaphane than a mature head of broccoli. So you can throw Brussels sprouts into a smoothie, onto your salad, try to get a little bit of those in. Mushrooms and celery are aromatase inhibitors, which is important for breast cancer. So it's good to know. You can tie that in to your regimen. They also boost your immune system and reduce inflammation, and that's huge. We all need that. Naturally fermented foods are another thing that Chris Wark tied into his diet to restore gut bacteria. So he mentioned Bubby's pickles. I think we've all seen those in like the fresh um, aisle kind of at the grocery store, like Whole Foods and Wegmans. They have them in the refrigerator section, Bubbies, pickles. I also just buy like any type of sauerkraut, fermented carrots, stuff in that aisle. And you try to just maybe toss a little bit on a salad every day or wrap it into a taco, something like that. Um, there was a really cool study that Chris Work pointed out at Cornell. They took 11 fruit extracts and they dripped them all on liver cancer, human liver cancer cells. And what they found was cranberries were absolutely incredible. And it cut the growth of the liver cancer by 85%. And then the runner up was lemons. So what I used to do was make a lemon cranberry water and drink it. I mean, why not? You're only just adding to that anti-cancer lifestyle by doing that. Another one, excuse me, is berries. They have a phytochemical called anthocyanins. And they also have OPC, and that repairs oxidative stress and lowers your inflammation. And I keep mentioning inflammation because inflammation can make disease and cancer thrive. So you want to lower it down. And the next thing that Chris Work talked about was fasting. I found that very interesting. So I dived into it, and I discovered that if your body can just take a break from digesting food, all of a sudden your body can start repairing. And the longer you fast, the more it can repair and the faster it starts repairing. So I would oftentimes start, it's called water fasting. You can do like a day to 3 days at home. If you want to do more, and people do, they go longer, you find a doctor to supervise you and you go to that clinic and you stay there under their supervision. And you just relax and you do a water fast. And it's good stuff. I've done that twice and it was absolutely life-changing, not only for detoxing, but also I had some food cravings I just could never get rid of. And I'll tell you what, fasting really resets your mind and realizes you can go without sugar or whatever it is that you're finding yourself always craving. So that's a good one to have in your toolbox. We're coming to an end about my journey and what I did to heal. Here's some more things where I sought out doctors in the Western New York area to have these things done. I did vitamin C infusions. So I would go to a clinic, sit in a chair, and get a very high dose of vitamin C infused into my bloodstream. And what that can do is it can be toxic to cancer. Another one I did was ozone IV. So they take ozone gas, and they withdraw some of your blood and they mix it together and then they put it back into you. And that can be anti-cancer, anti-inflammatory. So those were things that I did because I knew I needed to do something more than food and supplements at home. I wanted to go to a clinic, and luckily all of those places were local to me. That was great stuff. But more importantly, I want to stress that healing happens at home. So the environment you're in every day, the environment you wake up in, you go to sleep in, that's what's going to affect your body the most. So if your home environment is stressful, and we all know there's a certain amount of stress in all of our homes, especially if you have kids, pets, you name it. But we have to find ways to look forward to waking up or walking in that front door every day and not stressing. So if that means getting rid of your clutter, redecorating, whatever it is, make your home your healing environment. Stock your fridge with good foods. Make sure your closet has clothes you like to wear. Just look forward to every day. And it starts with your home. It really does. And I want to mention sleep. Sleep is huge. Sleep is mentioned in every anti-cancer book or podcast or DVD. So you need a good sleep environment. You need pitch black, maybe wear an mask, take your melatonin if you have to do something like that. Um, White noise, I play a white noise machine now. I had to get like a little bed cover that cools my bed with like cold water running through it. There's so many little things, a new pillow, you name it. You have to just figure it out to get your sleep environment good for you. Um, those are all of the things I did. I just gave you a lot of information, and it's no matter if you're sick or healthy, you can find some of those things to improve on today and take all of that with you. Um, so I'm sure you're wondering, where am I at now? So I'm almost, so 3 years, so a little over 3 years since I was diagnosed. And I monitor my progress. I have a regular oncologist, a primary care doctor, but I also have a naturopath, functional medicine doctor. And I combine all of it. Um, I do MRIs now because I had so many CT scans done, and recently I learned that the radiation in those can promote cancer growth. So now I just go with MRIs and ultrasounds, but you have to ask your doctor, how can you monitor your progress? Because it matters. There's all different modalities. And I also get blood work done to monitor. So I also have Robbie as my health coach to just keep me focused and centered. And I go to her exercise classes. So you kind of just have to form this whole like army of people that support you and are with you through this whole journey. And people that can check in with you on a weekly basis, and they say, well, Robbie says you're closest as your closest friends, something like that. So gain a good troop of friends that are healthy so that you can all feed off of each other. Um, my last thought that I'll leave you with is this. It's that no matter if you have cancer, if you're in remission, or if you're healthy, you always need to make choices every single day to take care of yourself, and don't put yourself on the back burner, because that's when maybe disease can creep in. So you always want to just actively make sure you're doing something every single day for your health. And that's hard because it's hard for me, even though I have that in my head that, that cancer could come back and wipe me out. I still struggle with, oh, should I do this? Should I clean the house or take care of myself or take care of my family? Struggle with that every single day. So I know that we all struggle, no matter what's kind of hanging over your head or what's at stake. So this is just your friendly reminder to somehow find a little bit of time every day to put yourself first and maybe focus on one thing at a time and build up so that you can remain healthy. Um, that's all I have for today. I'm so thankful that you all came to join me to listen to me talk about all of this. And I really hope that I shared something with you today that will resonate and that you'll take with you. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jen. Thank you so much for sharing your story with us. I know that when I first met you, that story was even hard for you to talk about it. And I'm just so grateful that you're shining your light and helping other people. So thank you so much. Guys, thank you for joining us. I want you to go to Jen's website. It's JENN Mozg, MOZG.com. So Jenn with two N's, MOZG.com. Check out all the wonderful things that she can do to help you. And I just want to encourage you on your health journey, guys. This is about preventing and reversing disease, dis-ease. We don't, we want to just be our own health advocate. We don't want to wait until something happens, as Jenn said, and then try and go backwards. Okay. And, biblically, everything is permissible. Everything's permissible, right? But not everything is beneficial. I mean, that's true. That's scripture. So, the most important thing that I and Anne Marie and Jenn want to tell you guys is that ultimately God is sovereign. No matter what is going on in your world today, he's got you in the palm of his hand. He loves you and he's with you always. He will never leave or forsake you. God goes before us, behind us, all around us. And the best thing is, he's within us. So we have the power of the Holy Spirit when you know Jesus. And with him, all things are possible. With him, all things are possible. Without him, nothing's possible. I'll tell you that right now. So be encouraged with that. And God is in control, but we still have to take responsibility to be our own health advocate. Faith without works is dead. We need to take the bull by the horns. And there's no matter what's going on, listen, you can change your health. You can and you should, and be your own health advocate. All right. So we love you guys. And, there's a different journey for everyone, whether you pick conventional treatments or traditional treatments or a combination of integrative, holistic, nutritional. Everybody should be doing nutritional, by the way. Everybody should be doing nutritional therapy. But pray about it, choose your journey. But no matter what it is, no matter what your journey is, no matter what you decide, you need to take care of this temporary mobile home that God has given us. All right, you guys. Lord, I just pray that you just pour your Holy Spirit over all of my friends here, Lord. Give them that peace that surpasses all understanding and heal any bodies mentally, physically, emotionally, or spiritually that are sickened, Lord. Lord, you are the great physician, and we're so grateful we can come to you. We love you, we worship you, we praise you, and we thank you in Jesus' holy name. All right, guys. God bless you guys. Bye-bye.